reminder. So I'd like to, as I said, I'd like to begin by let us seeing who is here so that maybe we can say hello. So I'll just go through the organizations and you can say hello. So ADPP.
Hello, every
Hello.
partners.
Hello, Mzi. Maybe I think it would be good for us to say our names because Sister Concept, I think this is her first meeting, and it would be
my
good
first meeting.
Yes, it would be good to say your names and so that she can be able to get to know who you are. So that was Mzi from Mozambique with the ADPP organization. Let's go to Bedari. Samina?
Hello, this is Samina from Bedari, Pakistan. Good morning, everyone.
Hello. Hello. Okay, great. Let us go to Seradi. Seradi is not in yet. Okay, CMES.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
Zakia Kasim from Bangladesh. Good morning, good evening, good night.
Hello, Zakia. You're most welcome. Commerce. I thought I saw Esther. Okay, Commerce is not yet in. Plavio. Okay, Reap. Reap. Valerie, I can see you, but I cannot see a microphone, so maybe there is a problem on your end because I can see Valerie. Valerie is from REAP organization in Kenya. Okay, do we have Solomon Islands? No, we don't. Spark?
Hello, good morning. It's Sabine from Spark, Pakistan here.
Welcome, thank you very much. Then WDC? Okay, that is Chandi from Sri Lanka. Chandi, you may need to check your microphone. You're a bit faint. Yapo.
Yes, good morning. This is Salim Panda from Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Salim. SSJ.
Hi, I'm Sister Concept from Servant of St. Joseph here in PNG.
Thank you very much, Sister Concept. CYO.
Good morning. I'm from Malawi, Concerned Youth Organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faith from CYO. Whom have I left out? Have I left out any organization?
Flavio. Flavio, Uganda.
Flavio, you were absent when roll call was taken. Welcome.
Good morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I just came back from Kampala this morning. I traveled the whole night, and but I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Concept. That is Jacob from Uganda.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. Our agenda is on welcome and greetings from participants, which we have just done. There is one more participant that I will ask to introduce herself as she's doing the second part. And then we shall have a round table, and then we shall have comments, questions, and concerns. So to take us through the feedback is Veronica, who can say hello as she's doing that.
Thank you, Karen. And once again, good morning and good afternoon to all our partners who could be present with us today for this session. And I welcome you all again. For people who have joined us today and who are new, my name is Veronica, and I am the program assistant supporting the Girls Inspire initiative and working with Karen. So now quickly getting into the feedback that we got from the line survey. Yes, thank you, Karen. So in terms of what was learned, as we can see from the slide, the partners mentioned that the application of gender analysis was very informative. Gender audit was a new concept that was introduced. There were different gender analysis frameworks and tools that were introduced in the last session. People found it useful to learn new ways of implementing project activities as a gender analyst. And there was one section in the session where Karen had talked about sex disaggregated versus gender sensitive data, which people found very useful. And all in all, that it was a very educative, informative session, and that expectations were met, topics were covered. Now, the second part, which is about what are the things that we can add in our upcoming sessions. So one thing that came up was that 1 hour seems to be less of a time for these sessions, and especially for question and answers. So maybe an additional half an hour can be added. That was one request. Then partners wanted to learn about feminist principles. Also the fact that, of course, everyone is coming from different organizations, different geographical contexts. So maybe to discuss which framework fits best for each organization. And also to listen to, like last time we had Chandi presenting for us. And so also maybe to have other partners involved in this and hear their presentations as well, because of course it's a knowledge sharing platform. So this was the feedback. And I would just like to raise one thing though, that is you can see from the top of the slide, which is something that's a bit concerning, that we had 16 partners who joined us for the last session. However, we only received feedback from 4 partners, and it's this feedback, it's just, I think both Karen and I would like to emphasize on the importance of filling out this survey, because it records a lot of useful information. It really helps us know how we can serve you better also. And as a knowledge sharing platform, what are the kind of things that we can discuss and cater to your specific needs. And so I would just strongly urge all our partners to please fill out the survey. And even if you have not been able to join the session, you can always refer to the recording and fill out the survey. I also noticed that there were 4 surveys which were filled out, but they were not complete. Like there was only basic information and not the latter part of the survey. So I'm not sure if it was filled out and maybe there was internet connectivity problem or something else happened, but I just wanted to point that out. And just again, I would urge everyone to please fill out these surveys. And thank you, Karen. Back to you now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your feedback. And I think we are, one of the best things that we had in that last session was, of course, the presentation that Chandi did. And as Veronica has said, please, for the topics that are yet to come, I had reached out and encouraged people. If you have something that you would specifically like us to share, then that would be something that would really help us, because when somebody comes in and shares their experience, it gives a whole different perspective, especially when that partner is in the field. So thank you, Chandi, once again for your presentation, and I hope that others will join in. So as we go into this session, you will realize that since we did not have a session last month, then it means that our topics are they would have been 1 month behind. But what we did was that we skipped the topic that was going to be on gender audit. And since it has been raised that it was a new concept, we will definitely find time to put it in, because a gender audit is something that is extremely useful for all partners to conduct an audit of themselves to see whether they are doing their best in terms of gender. So we shall fit it in. And so I think that is the only update I would have at this particular time. And perhaps I would like to give us a chance to go, just take a minute to think if you have something that you would like an update on that is related to your role as a gender liaison. You know, some of us have the double role of gender liaison and head of the organization. But perhaps at this time, if anybody has something that they would like to maybe say that is related to their role as gender liaison, I think I'd like to give us a minute or two for that kind of reflection and feedback. Yes, Mzi, I can see Mzi's hand up.
Hi, good evening or good night that side, and good morning to people in Africa and some parts of the world. We're currently revising our gender policy, so any support in terms of doing a good gender policy would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mzi. We can take that up with Frances, given that you're revising your gender policy, but you're also moving into a new phase in terms of your proposal. So I'll raise it with Frances. Thank you. Any other question or comment?
Hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So this is, I'm Chandi from Sri Lanka.
Yes.
I think as a gender license and also like a program head of the Women's Development Center, one thing that I had experienced during past few months, like we were supposed to develop our gender policy, gender policy, and also especially to see what are the gender gaps in our policies, and we are working with other women's coalitions to understand the gaps of the gender mainstreaming in our programs and things like that. So it was good experiences, that the knowledge that I have gained from this to apply to develop our policies and to way of developing programs. So it was helpful, yes.
Okay, thank you. The course was helpful for Chandi at WDC in developing the policy. And since two of you have raised this issue, I think it means that it is something that would be a good general discussion for all the gender liaisons. We can try and fit in a session where we can try and discuss about policy and policy development, especially for small organizations, because not all our organizations are very big, and we may want to think, okay, why do I need a gender policy? How is it going to help me? And this is a discussion that I think would be good for the future, and it's something that we can try to put in, and we can see how we can rearrange some of the topics and talk about policy writing and policy making, and just make it as simple as possible. Okay. Thank you very much for your feedback. I think we shall move on so that we have enough time to look at our topic for today. So our topic is on marginalization and inclusion. And first of all, we know that women and girls with disabilities are usually more disadvantaged than men and boys with disabilities. And when we talk about this type of situation, then we are saying that whenever you have someone with a disability, they have more difficulty and more challenges in achieving their rights. They have more challenges in achieving their education or getting a livelihoods training. This is a fact, and this is something that is in very many places. But then when you add in the issue of gender, when you add in the fact that this is a girl or this is a woman who has a disability, then usually they have a bigger problem, or they face a larger or a wider problem than others or men and boys with disabilities. And so what this means is that first of all, I am a female. Then I have a disability. Then I am living in a society that has got certain expectations about the things that I am able to do and the things that I am not able to do. And this means that there are very many different dimensions to my disabilities, not just the fact that I am a woman and I have a disability, but there are other things that impact or influence my disability and my being a woman. And so this is what we call intersectionality. I'll explain it a little bit more before we go into our discussion. But when we are talking about intersectionality, we're talking about the ways in which we are not just one thing. We are more than one thing. And when you talk about persons with disability, their intersectionalities usually lead to marginalization. So before we go into the discussion, let us just try and look at some of those terms just for a few minutes. First of all, intersectionality. What do I mean? As I have said, I am of a certain gender, that is, I am a woman. Then I have a disability. That is another aspect of me that is also a part of me. So these two things cannot be separated from each other, my gender and my disability. But where they meet, this thing called gender and disability, where they meet at the center of the two circles that we have here, then there are other things that come into influence my ability to function and my ability to have empowerment in my society. It could be based on my religion. In some societies, the religion that somebody belongs to may advantage you or may disadvantage you. There are certain rules and regulations that religion gives people and says you cannot do this as a woman, you cannot do this as a man. And so religion can have a very big impact on somebody's life. That goes to the same with culture. It's the same with the marital status, the age of a person, what income they have. In other words, their standing in society and their ability to afford things. If I am poor, I will be more disadvantaged than if I have the money to be able to afford maybe a wheelchair or things that I need to go and be able to study, like a laptop where I can type instead of writing, if that is my disability. My ethnicity or my race. There are countries that the race that you belong to, the group that you belong to, will be considered as low class or high class, or you may be considered as somebody who is untouchable. And so all of these things, if you have a disability and you're a woman, they become a bit of a problem. And so we are saying that intersectionality is that aspect of how complex it is to look at, just because you can't just look at gender. You can't just look at disability. Those are, first of all, one thing that cannot be separated in the person. But there are other things that also influence the way in which this person is able to function in the society. So if we were also to define marginalization, we're saying that marginalization is acute and persistent disadvantage rooted in underlying social inequalities. A lot of big words for something that simply means that you are not fully accepted. You are not fully part of society. You are not seen as the most important person in society. And we say that marginalization mostly affects girls and women, persons with disabilities, ethnic minorities, people living in informal settlements or slums, rural and nomadic populations, people who are refugees because they're not in their own country, and then street and working children. So the Global Monitoring Report says that when you are marginalized, you're more likely to be a woman or a girl, you're more likely to have a disability, you're more likely to be an ethnic minority, you might be somebody who is living in an informal settlement or a slum, you may be rural, nomadic, refugee, you may be a street or a working child. Then that means that you don't have the same equalities or the same rights as other people. And you will always find yourself like this red figurine is on the edge. So you find yourself on the edge of society because you are marginalized. And so if we think about our own programs or our own places or the places we work, if we look at marginalization, marginalization is not always something that people recognize because it is inherent or it is sort of silent. When somebody discriminates against you, there may be a sign on a wall that says you are not allowed here. There may be something that the bank will tell you that because you are not a man, you cannot get a loan. That is active, that is overt, you can see it. But marginalization is more hidden, so that you'll be told, yes, you can come for the bank loan, but when you go there, they start asking you for things that you can definitely not have because you have a disability or because you are a woman. So marginalization keeps you out, but it does not discriminate necessarily against you. When we are talking about marginalization, it usually happens because society focuses on the majority. It says all children can go to school, but it does not care for the child who has to come to school on crutches or a wheelchair, and yet they have to climb up on steps because they're saying there are 50 children in this class. It's just one who needs this ramp. Why should we change for that child? So it focuses on the majority, but in doing that, then it leaves out this one person who needed something to be changed. Marginalization is also based on stereotypes. Oh, you can't speak, so that means that you cannot get a job with us. You can't see, so there is no way we can include you in our program. People who are blind are like this. People who cannot walk are like this. It is based on stereotypes. And what it does is that it excludes people from activities, excuse me, due to what we call lack of accommodations. And we shall look at those a little bit later. And then it perpetuates exclusion. What it does is that it makes somebody be excluded. Discrimination, on the other hand, as I said, is very active. It's based on an equal power relation, so that it sees some people as desirable and some people as undesirable. And there may be even laws that make certain people not allowed into certain places. Like if you think about South Africa, when South Africa had apartheid, they would say no blacks here, blacks not allowed here. So if that is completely in law, and if you break that law, then you will go to prison. So it has a basis that is either social or cultural, political or legal. And what discrimination does is that it perpetuates abuse and hate and fear, because the person discriminated against does not have any equal rights. Marginalization can lead to discrimination. Discrimination can also lead to marginalization. And that is why it's an important thing for us to talk about. So let us come. I hope that everybody was able to see the questions that Veronica posted, so that we can look at some of these issues as a group. So I want to welcome you to maybe discuss with us, and let's talk about this. So let's just get some reflection on how, when we were starting our projects, we had to collect baseline data. So I'd just like us to share, how did your organization identify and collect information on women and girls with disabilities in your baselines? Anyone who is willing can start.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Okay.
sorry.
Let's have so maybe we need to raise our hands. Let's have Mzi, because that's the one that I noticed coming up.
Thank you very much.
We thought that it was asked from different countries, so we kind of did prepare the answers. So we, for instance, we worked with organizations of people with disability that helped us to identify and collect data from those communities. We also, in our organization, have somebody who has a disability. So sometimes when we need to know how to collect or what things to look at, we involve him and get his insights from what it is that we can or cannot do, and also the kind of language, because there are words that are used in those communities like that could be very discriminatory or stereotypically. So we made sure that even our approach when we go to the communities, we are not using some of the words that should not be used. So yeah, mainly working with people with disabilities that are part of our organization and working with organizations of people with disabilities.
Okay, thank you very much, Mzi. Anyone else would like to share how they collected disabilities in the baselines?
Thank you very much, Karen.
Yes,
First of all, thank you for organizing such a wonderful session. When identifying and collecting information on women and girls with disability, door-to-door survey, focus group discussion, interviews, quoted meeting, and case study, data collection method are inclusive and respective of the disability community, union council, and social welfare. It is important to ensure that the data collection method are accessibility and inclusive. The people with disability, including those the physical, cognitive, communication disability, they may involve using technology, providing alternative format for survey and other materials, and training staff to communicate effectively with people disability. Program aim the promoting the life of women and girls with disability.
Okay.
What are the some challenges?
Wait, Zakia, wait. We shall come to that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chandi, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes. We collect data actually from, as Missy said, the persons, organization who are working for persons with disabilities. And also we work with children with disabilities and youth with disabilities, and our centers, those who are coming to our centers for our services, we identify them also as our beneficiaries, and also social service department. The Department of Social Service is the one who supporting persons with disabilities, and all the persons with women and girl and others will register for their compensations and other services under the Social Service Department. So when we want to gather information or to look for them, so we access those information and data available at the government structures. And also we work with other organizations who are working for disabled communities. So we access their information and database. Also, we maintain our attendance and other registration name sheets. There we have added a column whether the the participant is disabled or not, and also the type of disability. Or we also ask another question that if there are any family member who has kind of a disability from the participant. So we gathered information in such a ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Faith?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this morning. As for CYO Malawi, our entry point, we asked an officer at the district level who looks after the people with disability. It's called Makoha. So we asked and consulted because we were afraid of, stereotypical languages, as in Z already put it. So it was a consultation so that we know how to go about it. And then we worked hand in hand with the local structures in the communities to identify those who are disabled so that we can include them in our programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sabine and then Salim. Sabine?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Karen. Yeah, I just wanted to share our experience, like Spark experience working with the women and girls with the disabilities. When we started our Girls Inspire project back in 2017, obviously the baseline survey in itself had the component of information collection on women and girls with the disabilities. So we do use that. And as we were working in a very remote areas, in rural areas, and in the communities where no other training and education facilities were there, and especially for the girls with the disabilities, it was very rare in those communities. Honestly, we also didn't have that kind of expertise to train, especially vocational training, do vocational training with such girls. But obviously we encourage them to come to the center to have an experience of, sitting with other girls and have something to maybe they can get something from those centers. And through the enrollment of these girls in different centers, we learn a lot about the girls and their challenges and their potential. And the other fellow was saying that the language they are using, and also we learn that what kind of treatment and what kind of attitude they expect and from others, because sometimes people over sympathize and they don't like it. And so it's a huge learning experience for us as well, as an organization, as individual and as a team. And there are extremely happy and very encouraging success stories in the Girls Inspire project with the women and girls with the disabilities. And they proved themselves with huge potential. Some of them are doing great in their
Wait, Sabine, you'll share that. Remember, it's coming. You will share the success stories. I would love to hear that. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So
yes.
yeah, and through these girls, we get to know about and we explore the other opportunities for them in those areas. We even knock the doors of the authorities who are silent, who are not doing their work, but their mandate was people with the disabilities. So along the journey, so many things happen because of the girls who come to the center and part of the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Salim?
Yes, Dr. Karen, thank you. From our side, actually, how did we go with collecting data from women, girls, especially those living with disabilities? We have, first of all, the team members who went for data collection are well informed with ethics, research ethics, for them to be able to follow all the protection of human subject from the FHI, and they are certified by more than 80% of their training so that they can be well informed and have to ensure they follow all of the procedures in data collection, because baseline is almost a research. So we also involved the district councils where we are working, the whole system of local government authorities to help us with identification and reallocation where or how we can get those with disabilities. As we also know, the marginalization of people with disabilities, it's quite higher in our country. So we wanted this local government to help us to identify. The second part that has helped us to collect smoothly data from women and girls living with disabilities, despite the fact that there were not so many, but our team members during the data collection avoided rude terminologies so that we can avoid stigmatization and exclusion of them. During the focus group discussions, some of the girls living with disabilities, including the physical disability, we have one girl with skin disability. She has an albinism. She has albinism. So during the data collection, we involved them and have used terminologies that are non-discriminatory, and we do not ask a person with a disability a direct question on what kind of disability she has, but we only identify by observation and being referred by other local government authorities and their parents. So that is how we actually did our identification and collect information from women and girls living with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salim. Let's wrap up this reflection one with Sister Concept.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sister.
Yeah, with our experience here at Papua New Guinea, so we have the 3 centers we train women in different areas, especially in settlement. But when we have disabilities special person who come to us, we always accept them, and we did not make them feel uncomfortable with their physical disability. So as they have mentioned about their, we don't have actually we call it collective information with them. But what we have is when they come to us, we always accept them as they are. So it's for us, our main target is always those in the settlement and those even with disability. We always accept persons with a disability, and they're, for us, they're very special because they themselves become their potential are coming out when you accept them and when you include them in your in the system, that they are a person equal among us. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. But when we look at what we have shared, there are 2 things that I seem to see running through most of the threads of what has been shared. In that, collecting of baseline information was done in a participatory manner where you're considerate of the person from whom you're collecting the data, and they are the ones that then would be able, you'd be able to share with them, and you'll be able to talk with them, and they can talk about their disability. So one of the things that I'm seeing is making those participants comfortable would have probably helped to have them come in and say that, yes, I have a disability, and to be able to then join into the program. Another thing that I have seen is that most of the organizations have involved one or other of the authorities. We've talked about district councils, union council, Department of Social Services, district groups that work already with persons with disabilities. And I think that these are things that we can learn from each other, so that if there is any organization that maybe you're having a little bit of a problem, then there is that shared learning that we can involve the government, we can involve the district councils in order to be sure that we are actually reaching the persons with disability and that we are using the right language to include them in the programs. So thank you very much. Let's think about the second question. Our second reflection is to try and think, what are some of the challenges that you have experienced that cause women and girls with disabilities not to attend the training sessions? Sister Concept, your hand is still up, so I'm not sure.
Thank you very much, Karen and Dr. Karen. Women and girls with disability may face a number of challenges that make it difficult for them to attend training sessions. Some of those challenges include physical environment. Many training facilities may not be physically accessible to people with disability, particularly those with mobility. This can make it difficult or impossible for them to attend the training session. Lack of transportation. Women and girls with disability may face challenge accessing transportation that is accessible to their needs, making it difficult to travel and them from training session. Stigma and discrimination. Women and girls with disability may face stigma and discrimination that makes them feel from training session. This can include negative attitude from trainers or other participation. Lack of economic barrier. Women and girls with a disability may face economic barriers such as limited access to financial resource or the high cost of transportation, accommodation, which can make it difficult to attend training session.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
so much,
Dr. Karen.
Thank you so much. Valerie, your hand is up.
All right, so a challenge that will cause the women with disabilities, the women and girls with disabilities from attending the training. One is that most women and girls with disabilities, they do not have like assistants, like somebody who is there to just help them. So you'll find that they do not have an assistant, they do not have the aids, like for the blind, they do not have the walking sticks, the white cane, and then the girls who are physically disabled, they do not have wheelchairs or crutches. And sometimes, like a challenge I have faced is that sometimes they do have the wheelchairs and the crutches, but then the terrain, it's a rough road. So their wheelchairs cannot even pass through that road. And then another thing is that anytime a person with a disability walks, they usually attract so much attention to themselves. And then like you can get like a whole street or a whole, the place where they're passing, everybody's going to stop and just feel it's right to comment on something. So to just avoid, I think it's to avoid this emotional drain on them, they just prefer to just stay in their space or in their home so that they don't have to face through that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Z?
I think one of them is lack of appropriate assistive devices, like we don't have braille for those that cannot see or sight impaired. There is also the problem that when they come to these facilities, there are no, the handrails in the bathrooms, for example, just basic things. And sometimes the way they get seated, if you are hearing impaired and you're sitting at the back, you might not hear what the teacher is training. So it can discourage their participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Salim?
Yeah, we have little story about a girl who joined the tailoring class, but she has dropped out recently because she cannot hear. She has a hearing impairment, and the issue is she cannot communicate. That was an issue for her to carry on with training, and her trainer reported to us that she has dropped out. We are now trying to work out so that she can come back to and how we can accommodate her to be in the training. Yeah, but she's very much inspired by the training, but that is an issue with communication because she cannot hear anything.
Yeah. Okay. Jacob?
Yeah, I have two things to put across. I am coming in the cultural perspective because we have a scenario here whereby we have a girl who has a disability. One side of the body is paralyzed, and we enrolled her for training, for vocational skills training. But then we realized that she was hoping to do this, but then where she's coming from, I think they have a problem with their cultural leader who says that any disabled person will not be, to not be seen like somebody who can do something reasonable for his or her life. Then we had to intervene, but then we realized that even if after our intervention, the lady could not continue with the training, but now, after asking her what best we can do, we realized that we can at least enroll her in some small business. And now when the graduation is going to happen, for us, we will also give her the package of how she can start with something for herself. So this means that as much as we are seeing that there's a challenge for them to come for training sessions, but we need to we need to engage them and find out what else they can do for themselves. So not necessarily like only making them get involved in maybe like some of the vocational skill training, but what about doing something to do with business? So this is also something we have to think about. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your contributions. In the interest of time, I'll just move on to the third reflection. But we can see that the challenges that have been mentioned are basically to do with the environment into which this person has to come in order to be able to take part in training. And so our third challenge, actually, some of it has been mentioned, and especially like the inspiring stories of like what Jacob has just shared. I think if one thing cannot be done, then something else can be done, and this girl will get a package to help her to begin her business. So the photograph that we have here is not from one of our partners. I actually got it from a newspaper. And it's about women being trained in agribusiness in Ghana. And the women that were being trained are women with disabilities. So it was a specific target of women who have disabilities, train them in agribusiness so that what they grow, can they sell it and get an income? What they grow, can they add value to it so that they can change it? For example, like make maybe peanut butter, or dry their vegetables and sell them for a bit of a higher price. So as we are reflecting, and from some of the things that you have shared, we have shared about how some of the organizations have handled the challenges of inclusion. So I'd just like us to invite us maybe just to give very briefly, because our time is running out. If I would like to just ask if you would like to share about some of the things your organization has done, extremely briefly, maybe just a success story that you may have from your organization, so the rest of us can be inspired by it. Chandi, is your hand up?
Yes, Karen. I think I also wanted to add something to the challenges that we are facing. One is that SGBV, it is more risk for the women and girl, more than normal girl child. So the parents are reluctant to send girls to the programs because they always think that they are not able to handle those issues. So the high risk of gender-based violence is one of the things that, and they always try to accompany with the guardian when they attend to the programs. So that's one thing. Another thing is that when we work with women and girls, and when we are trying to include them into the normal women's groups and all that, so they always know others will think that these women and girls with disabilities are not able to repay, or they are not happy to give loans and take them into their group as members. So we were able to make some awarenesses on how they are able. So the thing that happened, one of the success story was that one of the women who are working with us, she's used in a wheelchair, and so at the beginning they were not, others were not happy to give her a membership in their group because of her disability. They thought that it's a burden for them, and also it's difficult because they have to come to a place where she can go to hold the meeting because the terrain and accessibility issues. So at the beginning they thought that as a burden for their activities and all that, but we encourage them as well as her to be part of the group and to be involved with that group. So what has happened at the end, she actually the on women who were using the wheelchair has become a chairperson of that group later on, because she was able to show her other talents, her leadership skills, her advocacy skills, the way she spoke and the way she fight for others' rights and all that, and also the recognition that she had, and also her capacity of doing some handicraft work, and also she actually very good in preparing wristwatch. So she was trying to teach others how to do that, and she was running her small business. So gradually, other group members recognized she as a capable leader, and she was able to become the president of the group after 1.5 years of actually a struggle. But now she's leading that group very successfully. Which is something I just wanted to share with you. And there's another story for the children, actually. There's a very good...
Wait,
sorry.
Wait, because of time, let us give somebody else a chance to also share. And what I would encourage us, we share, these are stories that, we would love to have. If you have pictures, if you can send a picture with the stories that you are sharing and that you are about to share, that would be wonderful. So Chanji, sorry, let me just cut you and allow Sabine to share. She had raised her hand next.
Yes, thank you. In fact, I also had a similar story like the Chandi Sheikh. We had a girl enrolled in a vocational program. She was a double master's. She did her education through open and distance learning program in Pakistan. And obviously she was very motivated, but due to her, she couldn't get any employment, though she was quite educated and qualified. So she came to the center, and our program was basically mandated for the girls who were not, into college or into school, because our mandate was to give, training to those girls who had never been to school. But we enrolled her, and she was there with the other girls, and she did the training, and she was about to start her home-based business, and she did, and she in fact hired other girls and encouraged other girls with the disabilities to join the program. But we also used such girls, she and couple of other girls. We were at that time we were doing a Girls Inspire project specifically for Southern Punjab, and it was very remote area. So we linked them to the Chamber of Commerce and the Women Bazaar there, and some good opportunities which they were not aware of, and obviously they paid off these opportunities, and they view their businesses and stuff like that. But we also use these girls as our mentors for other girls who were coming to the centers. So this approach really helped us in motivating the girls, because girls do come to the centers, but then they're initially their energies were very low, and they were not maybe very optimistic about the potential, their own potential. But then when they see the similar person with the similar conditions are doing much better, this really sparked potential in them, and this approach really helped us. And that's the thing, I still think that we should use in our programs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Faith?
When the other partners were sharing, I didn't share because the problems were really similar to what they found. Yeah. So when we discovered that, what we have done so far, we've intensified awareness meetings to include them. So we make sure that the people know, because of social discrimination, they know that they are able to do other things. Yeah, there are people with disabilities, but they are able to do other things. Apart from that, we also reached out to other partners. So the gift of the givers has also helped us with some wheelchairs, so that we make sure that these women who come and attend is dealing with the mobility issues that always hindered them from attending the programs that we have in the communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Valerie, you have a success story or a challenge inclusion to share?
It's a success story, actually. So I'm going to share Felicitas' story. So Felicita was defiled at age 12. Unfortunately, she conceived. After conception, she was forced to get married to a different man, not the father of her child. It was a violent marriage, and this man used to beat her. She sustained a spinal cord injury, and she had to leave that the marriage. Felicitas' parents died, and somebody had grabbed their land. So when Felicita came to the office, the first thing that we did is that we ensured that we have gotten Felicitas' land back, because apparently in the traditional setup, women are not allowed to own land. So a distant relative had grabbed their land, but we made sure that we have given Felicita and her sisters back their father's land because of the spinal cord injury, which we took to hospital, and they said that it was too late, nothing could be done. So Felicitas cannot farm, she cannot bend, actually. So what we did is that we started for her a cereal business, whereby she now sells groundnuts, maize, and other dry foods. We also got Felicita reusable sanitary towels for herself, because at the point we were meeting her, she was very vulnerable. And we also got her small stock. Small stock here means chicken. So despite the fact that she cannot bend and do farm work on her father's land, she's now able to sell cereals, and she's also able to rear chicken that she can sell. We also just continue to do continuous counseling for her and just continuous follow-up, because since everything that happened to her, we have realized that she's not yet where we want her to be. Sometimes she has her lows, and sometimes she has her highs, but the lows are a lot, especially when she sees the child who was conceived out of the defilement. But we are continuing to be with her, we are continuing to work with her, and right now I can say Felicitas is much better than how we found her. At least she has a roof over her head in her father's land. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those stories. Jacob, your hand is up. I'm not sure it was because of the previous success story or it was a new success story. Go ahead.
So mine is coming from a different perspective. I would like to share that on top of ending domestic violence, and we have also added a new package that is strengthening national and local cooperation in preventing and countering violent extremism. So we realized that as much as we are talking about gender-based violence, but what about violent extremism? and then polarization and hate. So these are things so much common in our communities, and we realize that the national policy, the country's national policy talks about ending this violence and extremism. But what about the local government? So now what we are doing is that we are bringing the local government leaders together, and then we also have a document from the national policy in terms of when it comes to PCVE, that is preventing and countering violent extremism. So we discussed with them and we realized that there is a need, a lot to be done when it comes to mindset change, right from the local leadership, and that is from the village or the cells that we live in, because we realize that these people who commit crimes and violence, they live in the community with us together. So the local leadership are so much into this, and we are trying to give them capacity building and then tell them about mindset change. So this is a new development that we came up with, and I think it's going to do something. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for all the sharing, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I think the discussion is very, very interesting. But since we have run out of time, let me just finish off the discussion by looking at something that will summarize what we have said, because to try and ensure that everybody is able to be accommodated or can come into our centers, some of the things may be beyond what we can manage, but there are two things that are very important, and one of them is called adaptation and the other one is called accommodation, and this is what you are basically talking about. First of all, make a change in the way activities are carried out in order to allow people equal opportunities so that they can show that they are all able to master the concepts. So perhaps when we are having a person with the disability within the group or within the participants, we can use more pictures, or we can use more audio, we can use digital media instead of just only using text. Or we give somebody more time to complete tasks. And we realize that when they have more time to complete tasks, they may do them at a slower pace, but at the end of the day, they will be able to complete like everybody else. Then we also do what we call accommodation, and that is creating an equal opportunity for persons with disability to participate in activities to show that they have the knowledge and skills. And we do that by altering the way in which we instruct, so that if our instructions were mainly by giving directions, maybe our instructions change to group learning, where people can learn together and everybody can become a member of that group and they can help each other to learn. We can also change the classroom environment so that if this person can maybe not walk up the steps and there is a place outside that they can learn, can the classroom also be moved to that place that is outside? How we assess them or the resources that they provide. So these are just general guidelines. But when we look at what everybody has shared, we can see that we are really accommodating and we are really adapting when we find that there is a person with disability that needs to come into our program. And so we can only grow from learning from each other. And I'm hoping that the things that we have shared and the success stories that we have shared, that we have been able, at least somebody can say, yeah, that may be something I can think about that I can do within my program. And so allow me, because of time, just to come to a conclusion and just simply to say that the human rights perspective is that inclusion is a matter of social justice, and it is a path to gender equality so that everybody has the same everybody can attain their human rights. So in other words, including people with disabilities in the program is not a favor to them. It's not something that should be done when everybody else has been accommodated and we still have space, but it is a matter of social justice so that everybody can attain their human rights. In your PowerPoint presentation, you will find 3 wonderful additional resources. I love each one of them, but I think I especially love number 2, which is called A Difficult Journey to the Toilet. Seeing the world from the perspective of a person who is on a wheelchair and needs to use a public toilet. and needs to use a toilet in a restaurant or in a school. That is a very, very interesting YouTube. It's a short YouTube, but it is very interesting and it will help us to think. But as I say, the 3 resources are very, very useful, and I hope that you will look them up. And now you will allow me, maybe because of time, to just end here, unless perhaps there is just one burning question that maybe we can take. Or let me look at the chat. Thank you for discussions. Thank you for discussions. I think those chats are saying thank you for the discussion. So I would like to maybe on behalf of Veronica and myself, I want to thank you all so much for having joined us and for having been with us. I know for some of you it is early in the morning. For the Pacific, it is in the middle of the afternoon. So it's a very nice time to be on a call. And for Veronica and I, tomorrow is a big day. We have quite a long meeting, but I want to say it has been a wonderful, wonderful sharing. And I want to thank everybody very much. As we end the video, maybe you can unmute and everybody can say goodbye.
Okay, thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you
Goodbye.
very
And
Bye.
Thank you.
much.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
We shall
Okay.
consider adding a few more minutes to the time that we normally meet. I think we'll
Bye-bye.
do a poll about that and see what everybody thinks. But have a lovely day, have a lovely afternoon, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.